How y'all doing? It's Jenny again, back from America. I think I might have figured out how Brearey made his money. Maybe that's where he kept the drawer of doom. I thought it was a bottle of gin he kept in it. Maybe it was cash. And again, this is just theory on my part. I have absolutely no proof at all, but I just found out that you all in the NHS use something called ICD coding. And I'll explain that to you. The ICD coding was the bane of my existence as a care coordinator. Essentially, my type of job, it pretty much existed so we could kind of deal with this kind of stuff. Again, I had liaison with insurance. I had to make sure that the patient was being put through the hospital let's just say, in a timely manner, that discharge wasn't delayed. Patient got what they needed in a timely manner. Departments were working together, yada, yada, yada. So it was just a way to keep the finances together. And again, you don't have your finances in order as a hospital, you're going to die. Okay? Now, just listen to the second part of that interview with Michelle Warden on Lucy Letby analysis, Chris Morris. Oh, that woman is phenomenal. Anything she says. And if she says anything that contradicts what I am saying, you go with her over me, okay? That woman is phenomenal. But she says she had heard that, and basically we know the obstetrics and the neonatal departments weren't communicating very well. They actually were under, whosever idea this was stupid, under two different departments. Now, there were times many times that neonatal unit was just bursting at the seams and they couldn't get any more babies. And literally a nurse would walk over to the midwives over in that maternity department and says, no more, we can't take any more. And that midwife would be panicking saying, no, we can't, we have to deliver. We would lose our reimbursement for the delivery. Remember that, okay? Now, you use something that we all use, and I'm just using pneumonia as an example here. Basically, you got a diagnosis. We'll just say pneumonia. Okay, now you have to code it correctly. Now, it ain't just going to be just pneumonia. It could be all these different types. We got to decide which type of pneumonia. And let me tell you guys, this is only a partial list of it. So what we do is I don't code it. We have special people that code it. They'll give it a number. Well, let's just say they give it this number here. Now, I'm not against ICD coding at all. Okay, it's a wonderful thing. It's a wonderful tool to communicate. It's a wonderful tool to do research in, because you can then kind of just put in your numbers for patients that would just say have this type of pneumonia, and you can figure out various things. And those wonderful people like a Richard Gill or Peter Elston and again, all those other wonderful statisticians can break it down, and we can base a lot of our healthcare needs and healthcare forecasts and healthcare whatever, what are we going to need? What's going on right now on this too? So again, it's a good code. The problem is that it's a code. It does not give you humanity. Now, this is tied to reimbursement. Now, how it is tied to reimbursement is that you are paid for the service, not the actual cost of that particular disease. Meaning, if you have, let's just say, a certain type of pneumonia, it doesn't care if you are 18 years old, healthy, strong guy that can just get out of there in a day, versus an 85-year-old woman with no caregiver at home. It doesn't care. It's only going to pay you for that. The whole idea is that you want to get that patient out within. Again, we are given, even with those individual codes, that individual diagnosis, it's going to tell us. Like, usually the average stay is, say, 3 days. Well, you want to get them out hopefully in less than 3 days, and not in 10 days. No matter what, that payment's going to be the same, whether you're there for 3 days, 10 days, or 1 day. And if you can get them out earlier, that's great. And it is to the patient's advantage to leave the hospital earlier, because hospitals, no matter how clean you are, you're still exposing them to the nasty pathogens. And if, the doctor or nurse doesn't wash their hands, well, you're just going to get it. Now, also, what clued me in is that those midwives are saying we're going to lose that delivery fee, meaning at my hospital, it was not uncommon for you to come in and be checked out in the maternity department. Are you in labor? Are you not in labor? Do you need to be transferred? Or you deliver here? If you were just there and you did not deliver, you would get probably something called an outpatient reimbursement, which is less than a delivery reimbursement. So of course the midwives wanted to get that delivery fee. It's all about the money, people. If you transfer that mommy out to Liverpool Women's Hospital, they're going to get that delivery fee. You might be able to recoup some of it, as maybe kind of an, I don't know. I don't know how the NHS system would be. Here in America, I think we could get a little bit of that, as an outpatient, but it would be a pittance. And again, sometimes these mommies are there for days, and then all of a sudden we got to deliver them out. That's just a part of it. And again, now another thing that's tied to CPT, ICD codes is something called, and again, think of the ICD code as the disease. Now, what about a procedure? A procedure and a delivery might go under something called, we saw, a CPT code. Think of it as a thing you're doing to the patient. A surgery, a vaccine, a bronchoscopy, whatever. Some needle insertion in radiology. That would become under something called a CPT code. Now, you all don't use CPT codes. You use something different called, I believe, SNOMED codes. But my assumption is that it is similar to those CPT codes. You also have an SNOMED code for a vaccine. Remember that, folks. So, if you're gonna have a baby in the hospital and you give it a vaccine, okay, you can charge under that CPT code. You guys with the SNOMED for that vaccine, because it's what? A procedure. I do remember there was a lot of fuss about baby G getting a vaccine. It was just too much emphasized. Brearey. And again, when we would give them vaccines in the hospital, we made damn sure that those babies were as well as they could be before they got that vaccine. I don't recall baby G being well. Do you all recall baby G ever being well enough to get a vaccine? Well, Brearey insisted that baby get a vaccine. And again, I don't know. I do not know your physician reimbursements. Again, the hospital gets a fee, gets a reimbursement for that diagnosis, but the doctor also gets that. I'd like to know what the reimbursement fee are, how these doctors in the NHS are paid. Is it just a one-time, you're going to get paid, let's just say, $100,000, 100,000 pounds, whatever the thing would be, whether you see 25 patients a month, or is it 100 patients? How are you reimbursed in the NHS, physician-wise, for doctors in the thing? Now, what also is that we know is that, and Michelle Warden said, it changed. It basically changed right before Lucy came in. The incentive was you used to be paid, like your individual hospital, or I guess hospital system used to be given a certain annual budget, and then that hospital could internally decide how it's going to break up its budget and how it's going to spend its money. What are those, that individual hospital at that local level is going to know the community needs of the community and would be able to do it. That system changed. You all became Americanized. And the whole system was, the more patients you get, guess what? The more money you're going to get. It is total by volume. Also, in America here, it isn't the diagnosis of pneumonia where you make the money. It's the procedures. It's the outpatient radiologist x-rays. It's the outpatient, same-day surgeries that you have, those little gallbladders. It is also the inpatient surgeries you do. It gets a little bit more money. That surgery's that hospital's gonna reimburse for that, a little bit more money for that inpatient surgery than it did for that grandma sitting in a bed with pneumonia that's got to be there a while. Just keep that in mind. I would love to know how payment is made in the NHS, but if it's anything like America, and we all know that y'all were adopting the American way of doing it, well, it's all about volume, honey. The more patients you have, the better it is. But it's also patients that don't stay too long, that aren't, well, if they're sick enough to require procedures, bang, that's money right there. But if they're sick enough, they're sick enough where they don't need the procedures and they're just sitting there for, just say, antibiotics or on a ventilator or something, it isn't as much money, okay? I can only get into this deep dive. Now, we know that Liverpool and Women's Hospital and Arrow Park kind of merged, per se, and they had an agreement. They said, oh, Arrow Park, you take care of the surgeries, and us Liverpool Women's will take care of the diagnoses, the diseases. Now, was this done ethically, like, that this meets a community need in a specific way and we're going to partner this way, or is this just a way of saying, Arrow Park, you get the pot, your hand is going to be in the pot for the procedure money, our hand is in the pot for the diagnoses, those per se. I don't know. That's a deep dive for y'all to do, but I know I'm smelling something here. Now, we know that Brearey spent an awful lot of time with his friend Bill the Bastard Yoxall. Now, Bill the Bastard Yoxall had remember, he was handling the diagnosis part, which isn't quite as reimbursable as the procedure part. We got to make sure that what babies we have, well, if they're going to stay a long time, that's going to cost us a lot of money because we're probably only going to get paid this X amount of dollars for how long they stay. Oh, now let's just go to here. We're going to look at this for a moment here. There just seems to be a lot of identical twins with some issues here that happen to be at Countess of Chester Hospital. Now, this is your perfect twins here, people. If I could create twins and say this is how I want it to be. Each twin has its own sac. Each twin has its own placenta. Okay. Now, when you get into this area here, where the twins share a placenta, those are usually identical. They are identical twins, but you got a problem here. Because this placenta is just nothing but a roadmap of blood vessels. Okay? And it's just this massive road of blood vessels. And often, these babies will actually share a blood vessel or two. Meaning that one baby, and again, that blood flow, this baby here is actually transfusing to this baby. It's the blood that it has, it's pumping in here. So this baby isn't going to grow as well. This baby's going to get very anemic, and it's a real problem. It could die. This baby could die too. Because if it gets too much blood, too much fluid, too big, its heart's going to fail. Now, this is the scariest of all twins. Right here. It could have that twin-to-twin transfusion or that too little blood, too much blood situation. But it also is doing here. It's sharing a sac. What happens when you share a sac? Well, first of all, your umbilical cords get entangled. One baby little hand here, a little foot here, could twist that umbilical cord of this other baby right here, and cut off or partially cut off that supply to that. Well, that baby's not going to grow. There's also much higher incidence of congenital issues. And boy, I tell you, you're just asking for, just like this, but you're even asking more for intrauterine growth restriction. And there was a lot of babies here that had intrauterine growth restriction, meaning it didn't get what it needs, blood-wise, nutrient-wise. It couldn't grow as much as it was. So its growth was stunted. And again, and a lot of times, and another issue with these babies here is this could have too much fluid and this could have too little fluid. And that's a lot of problems here that I won't go into, but that's, again, you're just asking for trouble when it comes to that. So I'm going here to this wonderful thing that Richard Gill put out. Oh, lovely man, lovely man. And it just explains a lot of these babies here. Okay? Let's look at baby A and baby B. All right? We know that Liverpool Women's had nothing to do with it, but Connor of Chester and London did. There was every reason for Brearey to say, and for obstetrics to keep this mommy in. We could get a delivery rate on that. Okay, now each baby had its own amniotic fluid, and each baby had its own placenta. What a wonderful thing. Problem is, mommy had APS and lupus and liver issues. So, but there was every reason for them to keep that. And twins, whoa, we can double do that. Again, now, we know baby C. Look at that. Now we're going to go kind of here. It was born at the Countess of Chester. I don't know. I'm looking at baby C here. I'm going to just look at my own. We know it had intrauterine growth restriction, reverse and diastolic blood flow. That's like blood flow to the umbilical cord from hell. Okay, it's bad news. There's every reason to believe, well, why would Liverpool Women's Hospital want this? I mean, that baby's going to stay there a while. It's going to have a lot of issues. It's not a bill. I hate to say this, kids, and it kills me to say this, but it's not a baby where you would make some money at. That's unfortunately a money loser. Now, baby D, it was a mom that, had basically didn't get antibiotics. We're going to take her out of the mix. Now, let's look at this one here. E and F. They share a same placenta, but they have a different sac. Again, what we're finding out here, and then often it comes to, sometimes you are offered, if you have a potential twin-to-twin transfusion situation going here and they can't fix it with the laser, meaning they'll go in before these babies are born with a laser, like poke a hole in the mom's belly, go in with a laser and zap those blood vessels to blood supply, separate that baby. Or if the mom refuses, again, or if for some reason it doesn't work, they might be offered what we would call a therapeutic abortion. Well, and I'm not going to give you my opinion on that. I mean, as a mom who never faced that situation, that is totally down the ethic streams, and that's one of those situations where that's a patient-doctor situation. Again, with some of these moms, there are some moms that just cannot face having that done. We do know that the triplet mom here, O&P, was offered. And you don't see baby R in here. Baby R was the baby that survived. She was offered to have that baby therapeutically aborted because it was the smallest. It was having, it was too much room in there. And thank God she didn't do it because that was the baby that survived. That baby was, out of the three, was the least healthiest. So, again, Liverpool Women's Hospital, Bill the Bastard Yaxel, your obstetrics there. I don't view individual babies as rejects, but did you? Did you think, well, financially we're having some problems here. We know, I think, was it the huge amount of budget that they were doing just for claims. And again, and it was all about, what could we bill? What could be our volume? How could we, let's just say, make it so we get the best reimbursement, and also make sure that these little twin to twin transfusion issues, all these twin issues, that plays havoc on their individual statistics that they send to the NHS, that they send out to the public, that they do various things. I don't know, guys. I don't know. There is something, and there was every reason for the Countess of Chester to have that neonatal unit to be as full as possible. They needed the reimbursements for that. But as I am going through baby to baby to baby. What is a pattern I'm seeing? They are advancing their feeds too quickly. They're advancing them too quickly so far as their heat source, meaning let's get them so they can tolerate not needing an incubator. They're advancing them too quickly, guys. I think they were advancing them. My theory is, let's get them out of here. Let's get them discharged. I mean, that's what we kind of do here at my hospital so far as the adult situation. You do try to advance them. You do try to minimize, get those days down. Both financially, it is needed for viability. Now, when it comes to reimbursement, when it comes to our neonates, the insurance companies are not as strict with us because, what insurance company wants to be known as the one that forced a baby out of the hospital and that baby ended up dying? And also, what hospital wants to know, and our media is all on it, so are our shark lawyers. We're our neonatologists, if we would come in and say, oh, we're not getting reimbursed as much, as they should, totally ignored us. They should. They didn't care. They were ethical. Out of all of our doctors in my hospital, I say the most ethical ones were the neonatologists and our high-risk obstetric guys. They didn't give a shit how long these babies stayed or these moms needed to stay. A lot of these moms were admitted for a long time prior to delivery to be monitored. They didn't care if we got reimbursed or not. They were going to do the right thing. And I have a lot of respect for that. Now, we were able to, because we were so profitable as a hospital. Again, I was a hospital that made money. We did a lot of meat and potato stuff, meaning we did a lot of gallbladder surgery, a lot of knee replacements, a lot of stuff that we didn't do all that high-risk stuff that poor university hospital that was downtown did. I mean, they were money losers because they had to deal with all this high-risk stuff. They had to deal with all this stuff. Again, but they were able to get some reimbursement through research grants through the federal government. And again, our children's hospital took these babies that were just so high risk. They would have taken those A and B mom, and it wouldn't have been as bad to them. They could handle it because, first of all, that children's hospital, they have very good fundraising. The community supports it. And again, they do such wonderful research. They can get those research grants. And they have a hospital that was like mine, that was out in the suburbs. We made money. And we shared that money with that university hospital. Because we were all part of this system. We were all sisters and brothers. Because we supported each other in that system. We thought of ourselves as one big happy family, per se. Again, I'll let you do your own things, but everything is telling me that there's a financial story here, and I wish I could get my keys to the Brewery's Drawer of Doom. I'd love to see what the finances were at the Countess of Chester. And there's something that Brewery knows about Yaxel and all the other people at Liverpool Women's Hospital. Yeah, I don't know. There's something in the obstetrics department that doesn't pass the smell test to me that he knows. And then Yaxo knows something about Brewery. They're all scratching each other's back, guys. They're hiding each other's sins. I'd love to know what they are. I'd like you to do your own research. And if you know anything about, if anyone out there is any aware of any how y'all reimburse, just drop a little comment there. I'd love to know. I do know you use ICD codes for your diseases per se. And then do you use something similar to our CPT codes, which are procedures, vaccines, stuff you do to the patient, surgeries. So, and again, God, why the hell did the NHS adopt the American system? No, no, no. You're just asking for problems here. You're just asking for issues. Oh, and again, I am aware about Countess of Chester. It put a lot of money into up in its adult services. I know you put a hell of a lot of money into your gastrointestinal outpatient services, meaning, endoscopies, colonoscopies. Those are outpatient procedures. Those were our money makers, people. You did a lot into your stroke unit. Oh, and in stroke unit, you can reimburse for all the radiology, all the drugs you give. That's money makers. We became a stroke center because you can, all this radiology stuff you can do for them. Again, you put into all the Countess of Chester at this time put all this money into up in its OR. Where do you think we made our monies? It wasn't in our pneumonia, our diseases. It was in what? Our surgeries. That's where we made our money. So, And they didn't and they just let the poo drain out. They put all this money into that and they just let poo drip from the ceiling. Well, I think we now know why. Because, you know what? It made more money to take care of a you actually Countess of Chester made a bariatric department. Okay, which was more important? Yes, bariatrics is important. Poo in the ceiling of a neonatal intensive care unit or bariatrics? I'll let you decide.